You're rocking with King Troll. And I'm your boy, just call me Monty, aka King Gigawatt. P, just call me Monty. Back with an intro to make your head turn. Wave gang, making it happen. When will they ever learn that we stay strapped with the heat? Some all mass burn, and I'm just here to assist. Like Steve Nash, turn back? Nah, never. I'm a goat with the intros. King Troll, EBL shooting, so get low. Squad so exclusive, if you ain't, then it don't matter. Right there's your home run when we pitch like a nice batter. This battle rap, and when it comes to that, we go talk. Exclusive battle league, man, they think it's a cakewalk. Until they come to battle and get smoked by a killer. Stop sleeping on the league, bet not come with mad filler. We out here, see I move different, just say the word. Call me David with that slingshot, throwing them angry birds. Yeah, it's King Jigger, I'm just talking, so pay attention. This is just the intro, but me snapping was my decision. Wave gang all day, yeah, you heard what I said. Anybody sleeping on us, we gon' put them to bed. It's wave gang all day, yeah, you heard what I said. Don't get it twisted, dread like you got something to dread. It's wave gang all day, yeah, you heard what I said. Anybody sleeping on us, we gon' put them to bed. It's wave gang all day, yeah, you heard what I said. Don't get it twisted, dread like you got something to dread.
Nacho Sundays, every Sunday at 6 p.m. Live on YouTube on the EBL Exclusive Battle League Network. Hosted by Fibonacci Brown.
Nacho Sundays, Nacho Sundays, Nacho Sundays. Nacho Sundays, Nacho Sundays, Nacho Sundays. Nacho cheese, beefy, nacho veggie, nacho supreme, nacho Sunday.
Nacho Sundays. Where it's not
Nacho
your
Sunday.
opinion, it's Nacho's opinion.
Nacho
Hosted by
Sunday.
Fibonacci Brown.
Nacho Sundays. Nacho cheese, beefy, nacho veggie, nacho supreme,
Nacho Sundays. Where it's not your opinion, it's Nacho's opinion. Hosted by Fibonacci Brown.
Nacho Sundays. Nacho Sundays. Nacho cheese, beefy, nacho veggie, nacho supreme, nacho Sundays. Nacho Sundays. Nacho Sundays. Nacho Sundays.
Hosted by Fibonacci Brown. Don't forget to go to FibonacciBrown.com to get your copy of Growing Down.
Nacho Sundays. Nacho Sundays.
Brought to you by the exclusive Battle League Network. EBL.
What up, though, family? You guys have to make sure my sound is right. Do I sound good? Is my lighting good? Can you guys hear me okay? Feel free to let me know in the chat. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm assuming I sound good. Thank you for pulling up to Nacho Sundays, episode 10, where it's not your opinion, it's Nacho's opinion. And I appreciate you guys pulling up and seeing what I'm doing on this Sunday. You could be doing anything else, but you decided to come and hang out with me for an hour or so. And I need you guys to know that I appreciate that. That really warms my heart that you come over here to hear my opinion on things. I do try to move in the righteousness, so I don't want to tell you nothing wrong. So I appreciate this. That means a lot to me that you come over here to hear Nacho's opinion. So I hope everybody is doing well on this Sunday. I hope that everybody is having a great week or ready to have a great week. We're going to get some announcements out the way. We're going to check up on our chat. And then we're going to move into devour our nacho. So first things first, thank you for pulling up to Nacho Sundays. Again, Nacho Sundays is every Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on the Wave and Blade, or not the Wave and Blades. That's coming up next. But right here on the EBL network, where we have Wave and Blaze every Monday through Friday. It's going to be at 7 a.m. in the morning. And I believe Saturday is turning to Game and Blaze or Wave and Game. Don't quote me, but there is going to be something special dedicated to gaming on Saturdays, hosted by EBL Dave. Wave and Blaze. So you've got Wave and Blaze Monday through Friday starting at 7 a.m. That is going to be the best morning show on the internet. And then on Saturday, starting at 7 a.m., you're going to have Game and Blaze or Wave and Game, also hosted by Dave, where he's going to be going over whatever is on his mind while he's gaming and talking to you about his game expertise, which I hear, considering the way his hairline doesn't completely cover all of his head, is because of all of his gaming knowledge. So I suggest you guys pull up to that on Saturdays and check him out. Also, we have got a pop-up podcast. That podcast is called King's Court, hosted by our very own EBL King. King is going to be engaging the audience. He's going to be pulling up people live to talk on his show. So make sure you are tuned in to the EBL network. That is exclusive Battle League network, so that you can catch the pop-up podcast called King's Court. Speaking of pop-up, EBL, that, you know, when it comes to innovation, they are now hosting 24-hour or less prep battles. That means that battlers I've seen battlers get as little as 4 hours prep before they have to pull up and battle an opponent. I've seen battlers get a full 24 hours so that they can pull up and battle an opponent. So EBL is going to be hosting these surprise 24-hour or less prep battles. So make sure you're tuned into EBL so that you can catch those battles when they pop up. And they are hosted by our very own EBL King, who has his own pop-up podcast called King's Court. So if you're not tuned into EBL, you're not going to catch those battles. You have to catch it on the replay. So make sure you're tuned in. Make sure you're subscribed, so that way you can catch all of the great things going down on the EBL network. Also, make sure that you are tuned in for our Fourth Round podcast on the EBL network. Our Fourth Round podcast is hosted by our Is We Poddin' family, and they have been cleaning up when it comes to the interviews that they have been hosting over there. We have Danny Myers, we have Swamp, we've got Swave Seva. You guys just need to check it out. Make sure you're pulling up to the EBL network to see the Is We Poddin' family hosting the Fourth Round podcast. They are asking the questions that are getting to the insight of some of your favorite battlers, questions you're not going to hear on any other interview platform. So from what I understand, everybody who's gotten an interview over there they can't wait to come back. So when you come over to the EBL network, make sure you're checking out all the shows and catching those interviews. If you're not pulling up to get some of those top tier interviews, I don't know what you're doing. I'm finding out things about some of my favorite battle rappers, and it's worth the visit. So make sure you're catching that. Make sure you're also checking out some of the .coms of our favorite treasures over at EBL. We do have commodityproductions.com. He is one of our audio engineers for our battles that are hosted over at EBL. We also have viciouslyinfamous.beatstars.com. Self-explanatory. He's got beats for you. He's doing mixing and mastering. So make sure you pull up to his website for that. And you can't forget me, FibonacciBrown.com. Make sure you pull up to my website. I have definitely made some changes over there to add a little more content so that you can get a little more Fibonacci Brown. I have my books over there. I have my video content. I'm also going to be introducing merchandise and music. So make sure you are checking me out often. as I said, I do have merchandise over there. One of the things I'm selling is my book. I have Growing Down the Masculinization of the Black American, or an observation of the masculinization of the Black American woman. I have a few autographed copies left. So we are winding down, people. If you have been paying attention to Nacho Sundays, you know that I've been letting you guys know that once this first introductory round of books has sold, I will definitely be putting the price back at regular price, and it will definitely cost more for an autographed copy. So I have a few copies left. Make sure you get over to FibonacciBrown.com to get your copy. That's FibonacciBrown.com. Make sure you head over there to get your copy before supplies run out. So I'm going to slide over to my chat. My chat looks like I've got some people who are pulling up. Thank you, Mad Max. I see you in the chat. He's like, yo, Nachi, yo, Matt. I see Uncle Sam pulled up. Thank you for pulling up with me. If you are just now tuning in, this is Nacho Sundays, where it's not your opinion, it's Nacho opinion. And this is the 10th episode. I'm excited. I'm 10 episodes in. That means we are a little over 2 months into Nacho Sundays. So if you've been here since episode 1, I appreciate you showing your support and sticking with me. I hear that in order to be considered in the upper echelon of podcasters, that I need to exceed 20 episodes. So 20 episodes consistently will definitely put me in the upper echelon of podcasters. So it looks like I'm halfway there. So if you guys stick with me, I stick with you, and we'll get to being in the upper echelon of podcasts. That has a nice ring to it when it comes to Nacho Sundays. Don't you think so? I see I have, oh goodness, the Performance Gym. Now see, this brings back some great memories. The Performance Gym has pulled up to Nacho Sundays. I truly appreciate it. And my favorite 2-1 is in the building. I appreciate you guys for pulling up to Nacho Sundays. And now that we have gotten some of our announcements out of the way, we are going to get into our nacho. So first, the portion of our nacho is the nacho cheese. And in the nacho cheese portion of our nacho, we talk about our money. We talk about ways we can save money, make money passively, or have our money work for us where we're not working so hard for our money. And this week, we are going to be talking about understanding our credit. Some very basic understandings of credit. Now, I'm going to get a little swig of water before we talk about this, because I know sometimes when I mention credit, I could just feel the anxiety of people who are just like, oh my God, just don't even bring it up. Like, I just don't even want to think about it. And that's not a good approach when it comes to credit. So let me get a swig of water, and we're going to talk a little bit about it that hopefully soften you up to maybe approaching this in a way that gives you some strategy. So what we're going to talk about is how sometimes when you think about your credit score, a lot of times the only thing people know about their credit is that it's terrible. They just know they have a low score. They know that they have been prevented from getting certain things because of the condition of their credit. And they kind of get overwhelmed with how to approach it, to even fix it, make it different, or do anything about it. So some very basic things that you can do that don't require you spend a bunch of money or go seeking some professional or trying to just throw money at this credit problem. These are things that you can do that basically help yourself. First thing you can do is understand how your credit score is made up. So a lot of times people are like, my credit score is a 400 something. My credit score is under 600. I can't do anything with my credit. A lot of times we don't understand what goes into making up our credit score. So the largest part of your credit score makeup is your payment history. And that's going to be how consistent are you with paying certain things that are in your name on time. So that could be your mortgage payment. That could be your rent. That could be your phone bill. That could be a utility. If you're paying something consistently, this can be recorded as credit on your credit report, and it can work to your benefit or your detriment. So if you're paying this on time, you know, every month you've got your phone bill on auto pay, there may be an option to have that reported to your credit report every month. So the biggest portion of your credit score makeup is your payment history. So if you know you're going to pay that on time and you know that's something you can keep up with consistently, that might be something you want to look into. That's going to be 35% of your credit score makeup. The second largest part of your credit score makeup is going to be the amount you have owed versus the amount of credit you have left over. So we're talking about this is going to be your credit cards. If you have a credit card, let's say you have $1,000 limit on your credit card, 30% of that use on that card is considered a good credit to debt balance on that card. Anything over that is going to start to count against you. So if you got $1,000 limit and you spent $300, spending over that is going to start to count against you in your ratio of credit to debt mix of what you have open versus your balance. So that's going to be 30% of your credit score makeup. So below that, you've got 15% of that credit score makeup is going to be the length of credit. How long have you had these accounts? If you just got your phone bill or if you just got your phone 6 months ago, some people might look at that and not feel like that's long enough to extend additional credit to you. They feel like maybe they want you to have some longer credit history. So the length of credit is going to be 15% of what makes up your credit score. 10% is going to be new credit. How much of the credit that you have reflected on your credit report is new credit? And another 10% or the final 10% is going to be the types of credit that you have, your credit mix. Do you just have a phone bill or is it just bills? Do you just have a car note and nothing else? Do you have or do you have a good mix? Do you have a car note? Do you have credit cards? Do you have utilities? Do you have rent? So it's gonna that's gonna count for 10% of your score. So if you add all of those things together, looking at where you stand with those things, that's going to determine what your score is. So understanding that is going to be the first thing you want to do when it comes to understanding your credit report. You want to know how your report is comprised. What is that score and what are the major components of that score, so you know how to positively impact those different percentages. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that the information on your credit reports is correct. Make sure that they have the spelling of your name right. Make sure that they have your any reported social security numbers belong to you. Make sure that the addresses that they have on your credit report are correct. Make sure that the any employers they have listed for you on your credit report are correct. Any of these things being incorrect could also be tied to things that are reflected on your credit that might not belong to you because they have your information wrong. And if you do find something wrong, the first thing you need to do is dispute that information. Many times, if you don't dispute this information, you could really be carrying around information on your credit report that could necessarily either belong to someone else or could be fraud. So you need to make sure that everything on your credit report is correct. Make sure they have your correct name, your correct addresses. Make sure they have your correct social numbers tied to debt that's associated with your name. Make sure your name is spelled correctly. Make sure they are listing employers of places that you worked, that not somewhere else. And if you do find these mistakes, make sure you are disputing these things. Many times these things, once they are disputed, can be deleted from your credit report. So I'm not trying to guarantee anything, but this is, again, I'm just trying to give you some tools to strategize a way to approach looking at your credit report if it's something that overwhelms you. Many times when we do have to apply for credit in places, we end up putting out a lot of money because of where we stand on a credit picture. And we a lot of times we don't have to be such a risk or be seen as such a risk if we understand how our credit is supposed to work for us. So if we know how to look at our credit in a way that allows us to strategize and be able to manage it, we could definitely position ourselves to pay way less than we would if we just ignored our credit and just let it tank and, you know, take it like a crapshoot when we're trying to go and get something and we're just like, you know, let me see what it says. You know, you don't want to go in there afraid or even appearing uneducated about your own credit. So hopefully what I'm telling you gives you some tools to be able to approach looking at your credit and your credit report and your credit score in a way that allows you to strategize so it can start to work for you. So we talked about what comprises your credit score, those percentages, and the next thing is to make sure that the information on your credit report is correct by way of your name, your address, your social number, and your employers. Make sure that information is correct, and if that information isn't correct, make sure you're disputing it so that anything that shouldn't be associated with you isn't associated with you on your credit report. That credit report is a reflection of you, and it's a reflection of you to people who use it to many times determine a certain way that you're going to live. So that information absolutely needs to be correct. Additionally, we need to make sure when we're looking at our credit reports. I know that most of us are familiar with the major bureaus. That's going to be Equifax, that's going to be TransUnion, and that's going to be Experian. We need to make sure that information matches. We need to make sure that the dates that they are saying certain accounts were opened match across the board. Anywhere where it doesn't match, that information needs to again be disputed. Again, your credit report is going to be your financial picture to other people who are going to determine whether or not they want to extend additional credit to you. Many times that's going to mean where you're going to live, if you're going to be able to get utilities in your name, if you can buy a vehicle. If you're not going in there with cash, you might have to look into credit. And if you are represented or misrepresented for that matter on your credit report because there are incorrect things reflected on there, things that might be reflected more than once that give a picture of debt that isn't quite true. You got to make sure that you are checking your credit report so that you don't have these errors holding you back or misrepresenting you. So many times I know people aren't comfortable when it comes to their credit. They think, you know, I don't know anybody who knows anything about credit. I don't know anything about credit. I just know I don't have good credit. And you might have things on there more than once. And just knowing that and disputing those multiple reportings, your score could be impacted significantly. There are things you can do to improve your financial picture when it comes to your credit report that don't involve having to shell out a lot of money to professionals. Now, I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't seek a professional if your case warrants that, but there's nothing wrong with being informed enough to be able to know when the professional is necessary. So again, there's just a few things you can do. Understand how your credit score is comprised. Make sure the information that pertains to you as far as your name, your address, your phone number, your employers, your social security number, make sure that information on your credit report is correct. Make sure that the information across the board on your credit reports match the dates of accounts that were opened, the amounts of what they are saying is owed on these accounts. Make sure this information matches. If it doesn't, make sure you understand the dispute process so that you can dispute these things. A lot of times disputing incorrect information can cause a total deletion where that item no longer impacts your score. So when you can have a strong or stronger financial picture on your credit report, on when somebody is looking at you to extend additional credit, when that picture can be improved because you know how to manage your credit, it can open doors that can improve your whole lifestyle. You know, you might be able to now get a car that's more dependable. You might be able to buy your first home. There are different things that you'll be able to do for yourself by way of credit, that if you're just in a space of being overwhelmed about it and you don't look at it as something you can manage, you might really be missing out on financial opportunities that could begin to work for you. Because truth be told, when you have your personal financial affairs by way of credit in order, it definitely allows for a easier or better business picture when it comes to going into your business credit. So you only help yourself when you understand this and stop letting it be something that overwhelms you or intimidates you or makes you feel like it's, you know, you need a professional and you can't afford it, so you avoid it. There are a lot of resources out there, especially on the YouTube University. I'm a big proponent of checking YouTube. I have baked whole meals off of YouTube. So I swear by YouTube University. So there are a lot of resources out there that will at least get you pointed in the right direction when it comes to understanding different things you can do when it comes to getting or managing your credit. So one way that we can also look at what's on our credit to see if there's something we can do to help our situation. We can look into the statute of limitations on certain debt. Maybe you've got a doctor's bill or something from 10 years ago. You might want to look at what the statute of limitations is in your state on a debt like that. That might be something that can come off of your credit just because it's no longer collectible because the statute of limitations has run out. By doing that, you may also improve your score because now you don't have these debts hanging around that drag your score down that aren't even collectible. Something else you can do is to, and this is if you really need to dig into how to maybe clean up some other things on your credit that are outside of corrections or errors. There is also, you can check to make sure that anybody who's trying to collect the debt from you is able to collect a debt in your state. Sometimes people don't even have the correct credentials to collect debt in your state. So if you look into that, there are some steps you can take, some letters and documentations and requests that you can send to these collectors to ensure that they can even collect anything from you, requesting original contracts, asking to confirm contractual agreements with them and their organization. So if you look into it, there are certain things you can do to make sure that anybody trying to collect a debt from you or reporting anything on your credit report has a right to do so. So make sure that you're looking into that to make sure that you're following the correct steps. But again, these are all things that you can do yourself. If you feel more comfortable paying a professional, I don't want to discourage you from doing that. However, I also want to encourage you to help yourself where helping yourself is possible. And or everything I've named here, you can absolutely look into, learn about, and do on your own. You can send your documentation, your requests to creditors if that's something that you need to do on your own. You don't need a professional to do that. There are so many resources out there where you can copy a template and get results. There are people on YouTube giving testimonials who are talking about how they got results by sending out certain documentation and requesting certain documentation. And because certain things did not fall in line with the timeline that's allotted by law, certain things had to be deleted, which definitely helped these people in their credit situation. So I'm encouraging you to do the same. You might be missing out on opportunities by not managing your credit. Don't let it overwhelm you. Don't let it be something that you just turn your back on and just feel like, oh, well, it's trash. You know, I had a cell phone 10 years ago and, you know, I never paid it, so I know my credit is crap. You never know. That might even not even be a debt that can be collected on anymore. So you might need to look into your credit situation in a way that you have confidence about it and don't let it overwhelm you. And you might be able to strengthen your financial situation. I would hate to find that, maybe you aren't taking advantage of financial opportunities when it comes to your credit situation because you're afraid to even look at your credit report or even try to understand it, let alone put all three of them together to make sure they're all reporting the correct information. If once you go down this rabbit hole, I'm telling you, you're going to find people who not only did they clean up their credit, but they found ways to get paid for cleaning up their own credit. And then they taught other people to do it and made a business out of it. So, you go as far as you want to, but these are some steps that you can take that can help you just start to manage it from your own perspective before you have to go and spend a lot of money on somebody's program that's going to tell you how to do it. There's things you can do on your own. I wish you the best of luck in doing so. And if you try anything that I've named here and it gets you some results, come on back over here to Nacho Sundays and tell me how it worked for you. I would love to tell your testimonial. I would love to hear how it worked for you. And again, I want to thank everybody for pulling up to Nacho Sundays. For everybody that's watching, this is Nacho Sundays, where it's not your opinion, it's Nacho's opinion. And this is episode 10. Well, Nacho Sunday. Hey, that's right. Nacho Sundays, episode 10. I'm going to slide over to my chat for a second. I know we are approaching break time, but I don't want to forget to say hello and salute to my chat, who is a huge part of my show. Uncle Slim. Okay, you said the video is a little dark, but not to the point. We can't see you. Okay, I hope I improved the lighting a little bit. Thank you for that feedback. You guys, I have a confession. I usually have another lighting source coming in from the side, and I was a little clumsy. I backed my chair up trying to get out of my desk a little too quickly and then realized how close I was to my lighting source, and I knocked it over and broke the bulb. So I have to order some additional bulbs so that we can, use that light source again. So that might be why it looks a little dark, Uncle Slim, but I appreciate that feedback. Thank you. Let's see who else is here. Thank you for pulling up live and direct. I appreciate you spending this time with me on Nacho Sundays. Miss Vicious in this house. It's always a pleasure when you pull up, beautiful. Thank you for coming over to see me. Jay Normus is in the house. He's going to be on a card. Don't let me, guys, I don't see how I got to mention May 5th. EBL is going to be hosting a one-round virtual battle where they are going to be camming up. Matter of fact, that is the name of the card. It is called the Cam Up card. We are actually going to be able to see a lot of the battlers that we only hear about on EBL. I'm excited. And Jay Normus is on that card. I believe Villa is on that card. Miss Vicious, who is in our chat, she is on that card. Queen Kinesis is on that card. So if you want to see some of your favorite battlers that you've only been able to hear audio of when it comes to the EBL exclusive Battle League Network, they are going to give you that opportunity on May 5th. So make sure that you pull up for that. Oh my goodness, we have got Miss Raymond, Miss Honey Raymond in the building. I'm excited. She said, any parents out there, please teach your kids about credit and money management early. I couldn't agree more. Miss Raymond is family, and she is definitely a woman after my own heart. I agree. I think we should be, I think one of the best ways to save money, especially if you have children, is to teach your kids about money early. That has absolutely saves money over time. If you have kids who don't understand money, the older they get, the more they're going to think it grows on trees, and that's only going to cost you. So when you are able to understand money, credit, how credit works, how to utilize your money so that your money works for you and you're not working so hard for the money, and you can transition that down to your kids, I'm telling you, that saves money over time. Your kids come up with great ideas. So when you can teach a kid to be able to employ their ideas into something that can make them money, the younger that they get that concept, the smarter they are financially as adults, guaranteed. So I appreciate that advice there, honey. I thank you so much, and I don't want you guys to think I'm being sassy. Her name is actually Honey, so I'm calling her by her name. Thank you for that advice. I appreciate you. And right now we are going to slide over to some sponsors before we get into the beefy nacho portion of our show. So we will be right back.
A woman is the most potent expression of feminine energy in the harmonic equation of the human experience. Growing Down, an observation of the masculinization of the Black American woman, Volume 1. Get your copy at FibonacciBrown.com.
Yo, it's Mickey Fax, founder of Pendulum Inc. And when I have free time, I make sure to go check out the EBL network. Crazy. Trust me, you want to be here. Long live lyricism. Peace.
Word. You know I gotta give a shout out. Exclusive Battle League is we potting. It's Swamp Town shit, Carolina shit. We from South Carolina. Checking in and checking out, man. I fuck with y'all boys heavy, man.
I just want to say thank you to you guys. Appreciate you having me, and shout out the fans, shout out my team, for my ladies, my whole team, and just shout out everybody.
Salute to y'all, because again, I like discussions with people that are knowledgeable about what they're talking about. Rather than just motherfuckers just randomly just like, hey, so what was, how was this battle? And who's the, y'all really know y'all shit. So salute.
Listening to the Nacho Podcast, brought to you by the EBL Network. If it ain't exclusive, it don't matter. It's not your time to talk, it's time to listen. So pull up to the table with your plate and pay attention. It's not your time to talk, Nacho Sunday. It's something different. This is not your opinion, and you don't want to miss it. It's not your time to talk.
Welcome back, y'all. I'm going to have a moment of transparency before we get into the beefy nacho. Right now, guys, I am battling a toothache. I'm having a really bad toothache going on right now. It is really trying to fight me. And I took some meds. So forgive me if you guys notice my personality is a little different. I'm fighting a toothache, but I'm here. It's Nacho Sundays, and we're gonna get into episode 10 on Nacho Sundays, where it's not your opinion, it's Nacho's opinion. So right now we are going to get into the beefy nacho portion of our show. And during the beefy nacho portion, we talk about conflict wherever it may exist in the world, no matter what it may be. So that can be any wide range of things. And in this portion of the beefy nacho, we are going to talk about the beef with Leah Thomas and trans women athletes versus real women athletes in sports. Now listen, I'm gonna first of all, let me give some context for those of you who may not be aware. Leah Thomas is identifying as a trans woman, and she has entered women's swimming and has proceeded to basically win in the areas that she decided to enter and compete against biological women. When she did this, biological women began to really be outraged because women who had spent, I think one of the ladies who she competed against, or one of the ladies Leah Thomas competed against, again, who is a biological male. This woman had been training for swimming since she was 4 years old. Ultimately, to receive the title for the elite in her league, she had to swim against this biological man identifying as a trans woman, and they ended up tying. And because she ended up tying with this biological man, trans woman, they gave the trophy to the trans woman, not the biological woman. So I know for some people who hear that much of the story, that is enough for them to say, well, she should be able to compete. That's how she identifies and so forth. Some additional context is that Leah Thomas, a few years prior to competing in the women's swimming, was competing as a man, and where in women's she ranked first, in men's she ranked, I believe it was 400th. So where she wasn't able to be in a ranking to compete for a title or championship because of her low ranking, she was able to just say that, you know, hey, he was just able to say, I identify as a woman and I want to compete in this sport, and I should be able to, because I should be able to compete where I identify. And as a result, biological women are being outraged, and they are concerned that they are going to lose opportunities to men who are coming over to their sport and able to basically outperform them in their sport. So this concerns me because I don't see where coming from, in this particular instance, men's sports over to women's sports, just by saying, oh, well, I'll grow my hair out and identify. How is that legal? I don't understand how that's fair. I don't understand how that makes sense. I don't understand how that is competition. I also am trying to understand where in women's sports are there trans men trying to go over to male sports and dominate because they failed in women's sports. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why, and again, I understand this is a touchy subject. I understand that there are people who are like, you know what, Nacho, you doing too much. You don't know nothing about this. You should listen. This is Nacho Sundays, where it's Nacho opinion, it's Nacho's opinion. And if I'm saying some things that are touchy and you don't like what I have to say, you know how you got here. You know how you cannot got here. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to go as far as to say that for the trans community to have such an insistence on being in women's sports like this, I need to know why there isn't a push to have trans sports. Because when men were doing what they wanted to do with football and basketball and the sports that they wanted to have, when women felt like they wanted to participate, they went and had women's sports. They didn't go and insist through laws and try to legalize feelings by pushing their way into a sport that wasn't structured to accommodate their unfair advantage of body structure. So women competed with women and men competed with men. Now, if you identify as something different, you need to be where other people who identify as something different can compete with you. It doesn't mean you come and say something out of your mouth based solely on a feeling and then threaten opportunities for biological women who did not train to even compete with you. And because of scientific things like muscle density, or I'm sorry, bone density, muscle structure, because of those types of things, they can't really train to compete with you. It's not fair that they get robbed of opportunities because of how you feel. Because truth be told, 5 years ago, you didn't feel like a woman. So now you do. And now you get to be a champion because you failed in men's sports. Is that the message we want to send, that men who fail in their respective sports can go find the corresponding female sport and basically go over there and dominate? And even the most jacked, juiced woman on whatever steroids are available would not be able to outcompete a man. I think the example they used, there was an athlete, a woman, Marion, cannot remember her name. I believe she was a runner, but they ridiculed her because they said that for much of her career, she was utilizing certain enhancements that were banned at the time. And at the time when she was on these enhancements, they recorded the times that she was running. So this juiced up woman was running these times, and they compared those times to men who were running the same sport in the men's league. And the worst running man could not was still faster, better than the most juiced up woman at the time. So if women can't even use enhancements to outperform the least prepared of men in the same sport, why would it make sense that biological men could come over to women's sports and dominate without needing enhancements out or anything outside of the biological makeup that makes them men? Ideally they shouldn't even be competing, but for some reason it's acceptable, and Leah Thomas is trying to be the martyr for this challenge of wanting to be at the lead in women's sports. And from what I understand from the women that he competed against, there's been no like surgeries. There's been no nothing has changed other than his mind. Okay. So he didn't go get breasts or the big chop or whatever they're calling it now. None of that happened. He just said, okay, men's sports is tough, but I'm going to be a woman and get me a championship. And nothing says you are living in your testosterone, like the need to compete so badly that if you can't beat men, beating women will suffice. That nothing about that is ladylike, Mr. Leah. Nothing. And again, I understand this is a touchy subject. I understand that you guys might not agree with me, but again, this is Nacho Sundays, where it's not your opinion, it's Nacho's opinion, and this is the 10th episode. If you don't know by now how I am on this show, I am definitely going to give it to you how I think about it, and I don't think this is fair, Miss Leah, Mr. Leah. I think that you coming over to women's sports and thinking that it's okay for you to stand in the way of opportunities for women who were doing just fine before you decided you needed to win something, who were doing just fine before you decided to be so entitled, before you decided you needed to win so bad that beating these women will be fine and you'll just be the poster child long as you're a winner. It's disgusting, Leah. I think that you, even if you were just going to be in good sportsmanship, you owe these women an apology. You need to be the martyr or the champion for developing sports for trans athletes, where you guys can have the opportunities to compete fairly and champion those things through the same sponsors that champion men's sports and women's sports. But forcing your way into sports because of how you feel, knowing that you can dominate based on body makeup, but acting oblivious to it, it's tacky. I'm just gonna say it. It's Nacho Sundays, where it's not your opinion, it's Nacho's opinion, and I said it's tacky. It's tacky, Leah. You need to do better. No, when you weren't able to meet the challenge, when you were a male, it would be different if you went through the ranks. You developed through women's sports. You didn't do that. You showed up out of nowhere on a feeling and threatened opportunities for biological women. You know better. You know exactly what you're doing. And I don't think that you should be able to just get away with that. It's not fair. And I think the fact that you're getting support from big places, large places that have influence is equally as disgusting. So it shows poor sportsmanship. It's lazy. Like I said, when women weren't able to compete in the sports with men, they had leagues developed around them. I think you guys need leagues developed around you, and forcing your way into leagues that weren't meant to be inclusive of you, and righteously so, in order to keep competition fair and equal. Overlooking that, to me, just completely ignores the essence of competition. You don't get into competition so that you can unfairly dominate. You get into competition so you can develop fairly, and so that steel sharpens steel. That's not what's happening here when you allow biological men to compete against women and prevent them from getting the top accolades in fields that were designed around them initially and not meant to accommodate people in how they feel, who weren't designed like they were. So again, that was Nacho's opinion, because this is Nacho Sundays, 10th episode. And if you're pulling up in my 10th episode, I do appreciate you guys for hanging out with me, looking at my chat. I appreciate you. Okay, so Greg the Great has pulled up. And if you guys weren't here earlier when I mentioned, EBL is going to be having a 1-round battle called the Cam Up Battle. This is where you're going to be able to see some of your favorite battlers virtually battle. Many of you for the first time. I know you've heard them, but you'll actually be able to see them. And Greg the Great is going to be one of those battlers. So make sure you're pulling up on May 5th so that you can catch that. Make sure you're tuned in to EBL Network so that you don't miss any of the great things happening on the network. Jay Normus is in the chat. He said, that's not fair. That's crazy. We built different, bigger lungs, bigger muscles. Exactly. And for some reason, Mr. Leah Thomas thinks that we need to ignore that because of how he feels. And he thinks as long as he feels like a woman, he should be able to compete against women. And one of the examples I heard was somebody said, what if Mike Tyson decided he wanted to get back in the ring? And, he knows that maybe him getting in the ring with a man who's in his weight class might not be the best outcome for him. But if he got in the ring with a woman in his weight class, he knows he might win that. So would that be fair? So I understand what you're saying there, Jay Normus. The person who had to answer that question, they had to think twice about, how they wanted to answer, because, I don't think anybody in their right mind is going to get in the ring with Mike Tyson, man or woman. I think a few animals would cower and turn to go the other way, seeing Mike Tyson in the ring. So, I think we need to think about what we're doing when we make things like this acceptable and we don't think them all the way through to see what ramifications can happen down the line. And, as far as I'm concerned, it's a bit ridiculous at this point. Men need to stop trying to compete so badly that they will take opportunities from women in order to be winners. That's disgusting and tacky. I'm saying what it is. It's Nacho's opinion on Nacho Sundays. So anywho, Luke Kane, I appreciate you pulling up to Nacho Sundays this Sunday. Dave is in the chat saying it's time to get to episode 100. I agree. And what that means is that you guys need to make sure that when you come into Nacho Sundays, that you are getting the likes up, that you are sharing the show, that you are mentioning Nacho Sundays on your platforms and driving some traffic over here for people to hang out with me on Sundays. So that's how we're going to get to the 100th episode. So the more you tell, the closer we get. So I'm looking forward to seeing the traffic. Y'all make sure y'all telling everybody what's going on Nacho Sundays. And speaking of, we are going to move over to the veggie nacho portion of our show. And in the veggie nacho, we talk about health, things that can help us be healthier. And this week in the veggie nacho, we're going to talk about micro gardening. And one of the reasons I want to bring up micro gardening is because I'm going to be frank here. It doesn't seem like a day goes by where I'm not seeing something on the news, in the articles, on the internet that's mentioning how our food is being tampered with, or how some of the food that we've been consuming isn't what we thought it was. Some of my meat eaters out there, as you guys know, I'm not a meat eater. I haven't eaten meat in over 8 or 9 years. My meat eaters, if you are eating red meat, been seeing articles where they're talking about red meat is actually being colored to look red in order to give you the impression that it's fresher than it actually is. They're adding a chemical to it that is giving it that color to make you think that it's fresh, when actually it might actually be more aged than what they're letting on. So I'm seeing where some of our vegetables are not being if you're not cleaning your vegetables or your fruits properly, you might be consuming pesticides that might be causing you health challenges that you don't even realize are associated with the pesticides you're consuming because you're not cleaning your fruit and your vegetables properly. So hearing about these things so regularly, I have been concerned about food sources. And as a business major, one of the things that I have learned about business is that when you want to figure something out about a thing, you follow the money. And when it comes to following the money, what I'm finding is a lot of us are sending our dollars that go towards food to the grocery store. We are not growing our own food. We are not even trying to consider being our own food source, where we can feed ourselves, where we understand crop cycles, how long it takes to grow food, what foods grow fastest, what will sustain us, what are sustainable foods. So we are so reliant on paying money to the grocery store that we aren't even aware of where to start on something like that. So when I bring up gardening, I want to bring up micro gardening. Micro gardening is a technique where you can grow in small spaces over a short period of time. Many micro gardens, depending on what you're growing, can turn around and harvest every 7 to 10 days. Additionally, you can have a larger vertical garden that can turn around to harvest, depending on what you're growing, in 30 to 45 days. So I wanted to bring this up. First of all, what is micro gardening? Micro gardening is the practice of intensively farming in containers in well-designed small urban spaces. These gardens are designed to be highly productive and low on labor and space, efficient and sustainable, affordable, in a as long as they are grown in healthy soils. So if you guys are not familiar, a vertical garden is a garden where many times when you think of a garden, you think of a garden bed that grows out in the ground over soil, over a square space. Well, a vertical garden is going to grow up, where instead of growing this way on a plane, you're going to grow vertically this way in containers. So it's a spin on raised bed gardening. You can grow things like micro greens, leafy greens, where the harvest on those is turned around in 7 to 10 days. You can grow herbs. I've seen people growing basil, mint, bay leaves, different things, where I saw one lady she grew an edible garden where she was picking a salad every day. She had cherry tomatoes, she had rosemary, she had a bunch of different herbs that she used daily that she was growing on a deck. One of the concerns that she had when she she had to relocate for a job, and the job that she had, the apartments in the area were closer than her having a house rather. So when she moved into this apartment to be closer to work, she was concerned that she wasn't going to have the access that she was used to having in a home where she could go out into a backyard. She wasn't going to have the access to the fresh food with the limited space of an apartment. So she showed how she utilized this deck space where she could go out onto a deck, and she had vertical gardens. She had like, I think, 3 vertical gardens that were growing in separate corners of her deck. And one was herbs, one was vegetables, one was leafy greens. And she would go out and pick her salads. She would use some of the leafy greens to make herself fresh sandwich toppings. She would use rosemary and different herbs in some of her more elaborate dishes, where if she was making, let's say, baked chicken or something like that, some of the herbs for those dishes she was getting straight from her garden. She also showed how she was making different base salts, base sugars, or basil sugars, like different ways she utilized her garden to maximize having so much, and it just being her who was utilizing these things. So she started to make her own dried herbs, fresh herbs. It was a really an interesting video. So I implore you, if you are thinking that maybe you don't have the space to garden and get access to fresh foods, look into micro gardening. Look into gardening where it's built and designed. It's a system designed to have low labor, so you're not doing a lot of bending over, not a lot of tilling of soil. This is something that you can do standing upright. As long as you have the proper soil mix, proper lighting, this may be something you can do, especially if you are in a small space where you don't have access to a backyard, or the sunlight in a spread out way where you can grow a horizontal garden. Maybe a vertical garden is something you can look into. So I want to implore you to check out videos on YouTube about that and look at some of the experiences that people have had. I know when you hear micro gardening, people are thinking about, I want to grow watermelons and, squash, and some things can't be a part of the micro garden. So make sure you look into what foods are actually able to be turned around in a 7 to 10 day harvest in a micro garden. You want to make sure you're growing foods that are nutrient rich, that are going to provide for a diet that's going to work for you. If you want to grow something more labor intensive, know the difference, know where your boundaries are to make sure if micro gardening is for you. So I'm definitely going to be trying micro gardening. I'm a vegetarian, so this is ideal for me. I like the idea of fresh food. I like the idea of not having to worry about pesticides and different things being sprayed on my food before they get to me, or even worrying about getting them off once they get to me. If I'm growing it myself, I know what's on it. It's a way that allows me to take back my power when it comes to feeding myself. If you guys been watching Nacho Sundays in the past, you know I talk about this, where I'm telling you the one way you can control the people is you control how they eat. If somebody can control how you feed yourself, you're vulnerable. You're completely vulnerable. So micro gardening, while it might not sound like, you know, a sexy way to be a rebel, you'll be able to feed yourself. So it might be worth looking into. And moving into the last portion of our nacho, we are going to get into the Nacho Supreme. And in the Nacho Supreme, we talk about the knowledge nuggets, things that can help us get through this thing called life, things we wish we would have known when we were younger, things we wish somebody would have told us to help us get through. And this week, I'm going to talk about thoughts. Okay. So in the knowledge nugget, in the Nacho Supreme, we're going to talk about thoughts. And to begin that discussion, I want to read you guys something from my book. At the beginning of the show, I told you that I wrote a book called Growing Down. It's an observation of the masculinization of the Black American woman. And I'm going to read you a passage from chapter 3 on page 38 about thoughts. It says, I believe thoughts are things. I believe those things need somewhere to go once created in our mind. I believe the mind is one of the most powerful organic creations in existence. If we are not aware of our thought creation's existence, we will ignore the energy responsibility that comes with it. Once the energy responsibility is ignored by us, that energy will be picked up by someone or something else that is aware of the guidance needed for this thought energy. This is not to say that the energy you would have provided if you were guiding is the same intention of the guider who is aware of what you ignored. When someone or something else is more powerful over your expression than your own thoughts, you participate in the thought creation of someone else, forsaking your own. So I wanted to bring that up. You know, I know you might be saying, okay, Nachi, that was a lot to digest. What do you mean by all that? What I mean is that we need to understand that as a man thinketh, so is he. And I know some of you guys have heard that before. I know it sounds cliche, but when you really think about what that means, you are the culmination of your thoughts. You are the result of everything you've ever thought about. And when you think of it that way, you understand how powerful thoughts are. One of the most powerful things over our thoughts is the sound of our own voice. So what we say about ourselves and over ourselves is important because it's going to be the result of what we think about. And when we are not aware of how strong and how powerful our thoughts are, there are people out there who are aware of how strong our thoughts are and how powerful our thoughts are. And they will definitely put things in place to be able to control your thought energy. And if they can get you to participate in what they want you to think about and stop you from thinking about what you want to think about, that's a dream killer. That's a dream killer. It's how people's dreams get killed when they're working 9 to 5s and they get so caught up in the job that they forget they ever had dreams before they started working a job. So when you're not aware of your thought energy, you can leave yourself vulnerable to other people who will manipulate your thoughts, who will plant seeds to get you to think a certain way that will benefit them and not you. So it's very important that you understand, as a man thinketh, so is he. That's not just a cliche or a thing you've heard or something out of the Bible. It is the absolute truth that you will, when we think of ourselves as manifestors, the first time that we begin to manifest is when we begin to live out the things we think about. So if you don't have the right things on your mind, you can't achieve a fantasized a success for yourself. You can't say you want success and then think about everything but success. You can't say you have a dream and you don't have a plan. A dream is a fantasy that comes in blurbs. A plan is how you make the fantasy a reality. So you got to be mindful of what you think about, what's on your mind. Teach and train yourself to control negativity and negative thoughts, because the longer that you stay submerged in something, it's going to change you. And if you spend too much time in negative thoughts, you actually can rewire your brain to anticipate negative thoughts, and it will make it easier to spot negativity everywhere. And when you spot negativity everywhere, that's not a path to success. So keep in mind that thoughts are things. Thoughts are the way that any and everything gets created. Everything around you, everything you can lay your eyes on, that you can see for as far as your eye can see, was the thought of something or someone else. So if you can understand the power behind that and what it takes to be able to control your thoughts in a way to work for you, so that you think about the right things that bring to you the vibration of what you want to see in your life, it can begin to change how your perspective is. When you have an outlook on certain things, you can actually change your own mind from thinking negatively to thinking positively and seeing the results. So it's important that you know how to spot negative thinking, how to be good to yourself when you're speaking over yourself, because you're saying out loud what you think, and being aware of how to utilize your thought process to work for you, so that you can make sure you're attracting the vibration and the energy to you that you want to see in your life. So I implore you to be mindful of your thoughts, manage what's on your mind. Don't allow negativity to consume you. It truly can rewire your brain to anticipate negativity, which isn't good for anybody. As a man thinketh, so is he. I'm going to look over at my chat for a second before I get out of here. I see Iswe Podden pulled up. I see Jules pulled up. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on Nacho Sundays. Make sure you guys are pulling up to Wave and Blaze with EBL Dave Monday through Friday at 7 a.m., the best internet show in the morning. And you can pull up with Dave on Saturdays for Wave and Game, where Dave is going to be gaming and chatting with you guys. Also, make sure you are subscribed to the EBL Network channel, so that you can catch the pop-up podcast, King's Court, where our very own EBL King will be hosting a podcast. He engages the audience live, and he brings up different people from the chat to have conversation and engage conversation. You never know what's going to happen over there. Speaking of a pop-up podcast, EBL is also doing the 24-hour or less prepared battles. If you have not been tuned into EBL, you have already missed a couple of those events where I've seen battlers who had less than 4 hours to actually write for an opponent and be prepared to spit. So these battles, these 24-hour or less prep battles, EBL is going to be doing those on a pop-up basis. So I guess they couldn't be 24-hour less prep if they told everybody when they were going to be. So you're just going to have to be tuned in to the EBL network so you can catch those. And don't forget to explore the EBL network so you can come across one of our gems, which is the fourth round. That is a interview segment of the EBL network hosted by the Iswe Podden family. They have done some amazing interviews thus far. Danny Meyer, C3, Swave Seva, Swamp, just to name a few. So make sure you are checking out the EBL network channel so that you can check out all of those interviews. And don't forget to come over here to Nacho Sundays every Sunday at 6 p.m. where it's Nacho Opinion is Nacho's Opinion. And we're going to get out of here. I appreciate you guys for pulling up with me. Thank you so much. And I will see y'all next Sunday.
We appreciate everybody for stopping by. Make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button. And don't just watch the battle. Be part of the battle. All you got to do, look in the description, click the link to the Discord, be part of the audience live.
Oh, y'all, my bad. Okay, bye for real this time.